Good day, everybody. Welcome to Canadian music in the 80s and 90s and more. Um, thanks for tuning in. I hope you like what you see. If you do, please subscribe. That'd be great. I like what you see. Um, I'm very pleased to welcome Jeff Kelly with me
Hi,
today.
Alan.
Someone I've known for a long time because I think I've seen Spirit of the West 20 times over the years.
Wow.
But you're one of the guys that has really been keeping active still in the music
Yeah,
business. You are going on tour with the Irish Rovers once again, and this
yeah,
is their 60th anniversary. I'm reading.
it is. Believe it or not, that's an incredible achievement. It is their 60th anniversary.
Wow, and you guys really do a cross Canada tour. When you do a cross Canada tour, you're going
Yeah.
coast to
Oh, the
coast, aren't
last
you?
one we did back in 2023 was even longer. It was
Oh
like a
yeah.
good 6 week run. This one's more civil. It's like a month long, and but we begin in Halifax and work our way west is how the tour is lined up.
And I'm glad you're coming to PEI because
Yeah,
not many do. So it's good to see you
yeah.
guys coming to
Oh, we
PEI.
love going there. Yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been with the Irish Rovers? Like when did you first start playing with them or get the call to or
Yeah. Well, years ago when they made a record called The Hard Stuff. God, I wish
Mhm.
I knew the date of that. I would say it would be late 80s or early 90s. And Bill Henderson from Chilliwack was the producer.
Okay.
And he got a hold of me. And I'd met George before, but he got a hold of me to come and play on the record. So both Hugh McMillan from Spirit of the West and myself played on a handful of songs on that record. So that was the first time I really had a deeper connection with them. But the first touring opportunity I had was 2001. They went to
Okay.
New Zealand in 2001, and that was my first tour. And I've kind of been touring with them more or less ever since. There was a couple little conflicts over the years where I had other stuff to do and couldn't make a tour, but more or less I've been touring with them for 24 years now.
Wow, that's crazy, amazing.
Yeah,
And could you just go over who's in the band right now? Like I know some of the original guys are no longer with us, but
yeah. Well, I'd say the only original now is George Miller,
okay.
is the brother of Will.
Yeah.
And since Will left the band, George has really done an amazing job of rebuilding the band and taking over the record label and looking after all that stuff. He's been amazing to work with. So George is the only remaining original. And also in the band, I guess I've been there the next longest, but
Oh, really?
George's cousin Ian Miller is in the
Okay.
band. Ian took over from his dad Joe when Joe retired. Joe
Okay.
was not quite an original, but he was there from very early on. And we have an accordion player from Chicago named Jimmy Keene, who's fantastic Irish American accordion player. We have a lovely young banjo mandolin player called Shane Farrell,
Mhm.
who's just a superb musician. And his brother Colin is in the band Lunasa. So he comes with some great family lineage. We have the wonderful Jerry O'Connor on fiddle. Jerry still lives in Ireland and he's played with loads of people and he's been there for quite a while now. And we have Neil Ryan, will be the newest guy on this tour. Neil he's a fellow Vancouverite,
Mhm.
but he's from Dublin originally, and he's got a lovely Irish voice. So we will have him singing. And who else? Fred Graham is the drummer. Fred is from Montreal, and he's played Irish music all his life, originally from Belfast. I must be missing one or two. Davey Walker is the keyboard player.
Okay.
He's also from Northern Ireland, but he lives in Kelowna. And I think that might be the nine of us there. I hope I haven't missed anyone. But yeah, I think that's the nine.
And are you a multi-instrumentalist in this band? Like you've been in every other band I've seen you in?
No, not really. I mean, I primarily play flutes and whistles, and then I play a little bit of percussion here and there. Not very much. Freddie handles most of that, so
Right.
it's really kind of nice for me just to concentrate on the flutes and whistles. There's loads of different key changes and things. It's a very different show from Spirit or something like that was more kind of half of a rock band and
Yeah.
not terribly scripted. This show is really tight and a real theater kind of production, and so there's not as much room for dancing around or improv or any of that. It's just really well structured and well orchestrated, and I just concentrate on the flutes and whistles, and that's enough for me.
Awesome. So 60 years. There's a lot of material to narrow down. How do you guys determine what material you guys are going to bring to a tour like
Well, it's
this?
it's pretty much George. George is he's in charge of all of that. And like about 2 months ago, he sent out a couple of proposed set lists. We usually do two sets, except
Mhm.
if we're in a casino or something like that where they just want one.
Yeah,
And they've got so many songs that people expect to hear, but I'd say there's only room for maybe 7 or 8 songs that could leave the set and for in favor of something else. Usually a couple of things from the newest album, like on this tour, we're
right.
going to do a set of instrumentals that we came up with in Belfast. So that'll be one different thing. There's an old song called Mick McGuire that I'd never heard before. It's a
Mhm.
great song, so that'll find its way into the set. But a lot of it is we couldn't do the show without doing the Black Velvet Band and the Unicorn and the Drunken
Sure.
Sailor and the Irish Rover. All those songs are the kind of staples of the band, and I think people would be a little upset if we didn't play those. So we try and walk that fine line of pleasing everybody and yet
Right.
having some new material in there for us as well.
Do you pull out Wasn't That a Party? Because I'm hearing it a lot on the radio these
Yeah,
days.
yeah, I'm
Again, it
sure
seems to
that'll
have a
be in there.
resurgence.
There was a period where we didn't do it,
Right.
and I don't know why. Just we stopped doing it for a while, but it's been in the set now for the last 2 or 3 tours, so I'm sure it'll be there as well.
It seems to have a resurgence lately.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny how
There's a radio here in Charlotte, show in Charlottetown on one of the country stations. It plays all old music on Saturday nights,
yeah.
and they play it every Saturday.
Well, it's a great
So
song for a Saturday night for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so in terms of the tour, like you obviously see more places than you might have seen with Spirit at the time, like because they really go across the country.
yeah, they do. I mean, we've done some pretty detailed touring in the Maritimes where like Newfoundland, we toured all those a lot of small towns.
Yeah.
So Spirit, I think we only ever played maybe Corner Brook once or twice, and then St. John's a bunch of times. But the Rovers dig a little deeper and they go a little further and into the smaller communities. And that's kind of the way they were when we toured the U.S. We rarely played a major city. It was usually
Yeah.
smaller cities. And I don't know why that just seems to work for them. Like we're not playing in Toronto on this tour,
Oh, really?
and we're playing at the River Rock Casino in Vancouver, but it's in Richmond. Really, it's kind of in the suburbs of Vancouver. So it's very rare we play kind of downtown in a major city. And I don't know why that is. People tend to come to other places to see us, and like we'll play Chatham and Guelph and all those kind of places, and instead of Toronto. And
Right.
I'm probably because there's so much competition in the big city. There's a
Right.
lot to go up against, and I think over the years we've just found better luck playing surrounding areas. So that's how that kind of came about.
Yeah. Do you mind if I touch on some of your other work?
Sure.
Um, I discovered your instrumental album with Barney Bentall, the Ranch Riders, I believe.
Ranch Riders, yeah,
Just amazing instrumental music to listen to. I told you before, I usually listen to it when I'm camping, and it just
yeah,
goes over really well. It's beautiful music. And you said you're
yeah,
doing another album?
yeah. We've finished, mixed, and everything. A second record. This one was conceived again at Barney's cabin in the Caribou of British Columbia,
Okay.
but we recorded it all in Vancouver because we have so many friends that we play music with who live in Vancouver. And instead of trying to get them all to come up to this little cabin, it was much easier to do it at home here.
Yeah.
But so it's a little more fleshed out than the last one, but I think it's still instrumental, except for maybe I think there's a poem on there that Barn
Right.
recites, but it's all instrumental again, and with some of the best players here in the city, Scott Smith on all kinds of stringed
Yeah.
instruments, and Kendall Carson on fiddle, and Jeff Hicks and Rob Becker are the rhythm section. It's just a lot of the people we've had the pleasure of playing with over the years, and yeah, I'm excited. We're hoping to have it out this fall.
Okay.
Is the goal for the second one. So we still got the artwork and mastering and things to do, but it's nice knowing that we've got it all finished.
It's nice Kendall Carson's playing with you on that
Yeah,
too. I
yeah,
saw her with Adam Baldwin last fall here in Cavendish PEI. She was playing with him,
yeah.
and I
She's
didn't
wonderful.
realize she played with him. He's
Yeah,
just a great musician.
he
Um,
really is, and I've only gotten to know him through Kendall. Like she was the one who introduced me to Adam, and I love that when you get turned on to somebody that you didn't really know much about. And Kendall and I are old pals because we played together in the Paper Boys way back,
Yep.
and we just remained friends ever since. And we had her birthday party at my house not so long ago. So I do see quite a bit of her when she's in town. But she works a lot with Alan Doyle. That's
Yeah.
her main gig has been Alan lately. But it's always a joy to see her and to have her playing a record is really special. And she played on the first one as well, just on a couple of tracks, but she plays on at least half of them on this new record.
And I've
So
seen her play with you guys in spirit a couple of times. I
yeah,
saw you
oh
guys
yeah,
in
she was
Toronto.
an honorary member of our band towards the end, and we would have her anytime she wanted to if she was available. She's just one of our favorites.
And that's not the only, the Ranch Riders isn't the only thing you've done with Barney Bentall, is it? There's another band you guys are.
Well, Barn had a band for the last 20 years called the Caribou Express, which was
Yep.
again a collection of all these West Coast musicians, primarily West Coast. And that's kind of the band has played on the latest Ranch Riders record. It's all those same guys.
Yeah.
Jeff Hicks, the drummer, plays with Colin James. That's his main
Right.
kind of gig these days. And Scott plays, the guitar player, plays with everybody, and he's a wonderful pedal steel player. We had Stephanie Cadman in that band playing fiddle and step dancing, and she is amazing. And Barney's son Dustin and his wife Trixie are in the band, and it's just a great collection of people. We had Simon Kendall playing keyboards. He's from Doug and the Slugs, and
Right.
Jeff Hillhorst playing keys also from the Deep Dark Woods. And so it's a real neat collection of people, and a lot of them are on the next Ranch Riders record.
And what kind of music do you guys do? You guys do a pretty eclectic bunch of music there.
It's eclectic. Everybody gets featured. So we do a couple of Spirit songs in the show. Obviously quite a few Barney songs and Dustin songs, and
Yeah.
we always have special guests. Like we played in Toronto recently. It was the final actual one, and we had William Prince was there and Jim
Oh,
Cuddy,
wow.
people like that, Tom Wilson. And so we always make room for them to learn their songs and play a couple of their songs. So it's just a kind of a collective, almost like a Prairie Home Companion type of
Yeah.
vibe. And Barney kind of hosts the whole thing, and sadly it's come to an end. This was the 20th year, and Barnes decided to move on from it. And it's been kind of bittersweet because we all enjoyed it. It's usually only a couple of weeks every fall that we do it, but I'm sure the band will kind of reassemble in some other way to continue to play music together. Maybe it'll be a Ranch Riders thing, or who knows. But
Yeah.
I know we'll stay in touch with all those people, and we'll be playing again, just maybe not as the Caribou Express.
Well, the one thing I really like to promote on my channel and my Facebook group is that a lot of these bands from the 80s, 90s are still making music today.
Yeah,
And especially Barney Bentall, like his last
yeah,
CD was so incredible, like better than
yeah,
anything I think he's ever done.
yeah,
And I was such a big fan. I put that CD on a lot, and it's some of the best music he's ever done. And I find a lot of these bands are putting out some of their best music now.
yeah. Well, Barney's been well. First of all, he's just so busy and so open to any kind of musical adventure,
Right.
And our little thing together started in the most humble way, just playing acoustic guitars by the creek and at his ranch, and it just grew from there. But he's got a trio with Sherry Ulrich and Tom Taylor, who was in She Stole My Beer. They play together as a trio. He does loads of solo gigs. He's part of a bluegrass band called the High Bar Gang. He does our thing. He still does the Legendary Hearts now and then,
Yeah.
and he's just he's kind of fearless in trying different things, and he's over the years, because he's been like that, he's just met so many people. And yeah, I agree, his Cosmic Dreamer record was an excellent record, and he's got a lot of good new songs that
Yeah.
hopefully he'll be working on soon enough.
Yeah. There's so many Canadian bands I've gotten to interview this year that have new stuff out, and it's just really good. Like it's as good as
Yeah,
anything they've done. And that's the thing I
yeah.
really like to, you know, these people haven't been sitting there since the 80s doing nothing. They're actually
Oh,
still doing stuff now.
yeah, I mean, and Barney's, he comes by all the sort of rootsy Americana stuff, honestly, because he actually is a rancher.
Yeah.
He works a ranch, and so he comes by all that very honestly. And it's been a gradual shift from the rock stuff that he did with the Legendary Hearts, but
Right.
and he still loves doing that. It's kind of the only time he really picks up the electric is to do that kind of stuff. But it's been a very natural thing for him to ease into sort of folk music, and Americana because it's just the part of his life now is half his life is spent up at the ranch, so it makes a lot of sense.
You mind if I touch on Spirit for a while? I have to.
Sure.
You guys were my all-time favorite band.
Oh
Um,
wow,
I saw you over 20 times. You allowed me to uh propose to my wife at one of
that's
your
so great.
shows, and I've interviewed Vince a couple of times, and he still picks on me today about how I was sweating profusely, and
Oh
so
man.
he still got a good sense of humor there.
Oh
I
yeah, he
see.
does.
So so you've obviously kept very busy since Spirit has come to an end.
Yeah.
One thing I've always found a coincidence is that the Tragically Hip, Rush, and Spirit all ended in the same year
Yeah,
because
I
of
never thought
illness.
about Rush being in that group too, but yeah, I suppose they did.
And I include you guys in that group because I think you guys are as important to Canada as Rush and the Tragically Hip are.
Oh,
I
that's really nice of you to say that.
At least I do anyway. I consider you guys at least as important to Canada as those two
Well,
bands are for sure.
we never really knew Rush. You know, of course, we knew their music, but we certainly did know the Tragically Hip, and we had
Yeah,
a lovely long friendship with them. We didn't see them as much over the years because we didn't live that close to those guys, but
right.
I did have the great pleasure of recording with the Paperboys at their studio in Ontario,
Okay.
Bathhouse, which was pretty exciting. We were only there for 2 or 3 days. Kendall was actually there as well,
Yeah,
and it was sweltering hot, but it was neat to be kind of in the engine room of the Tragically Hip's
yeah.
machinery, so to speak, and it was really a cool experience. But meeting them and touring with them, they were fantastic hosts when we did the roadside attraction tour.
Mhm.
We toured with them a little bit in the States, and if there was a dressing room, only one dressing room in the venue, they would give it to us, and they would use their bus as a dressing room. They wanted to make every night just as good as it could be, regardless of who was playing with them, and they were just I can't say enough about those guys. And the saddest part was when they did their final tour. I went to the show here in Vancouver with John, and by then John was fairly well into his early onset Alzheimer's, but he got so nervous for Gord.
Yeah,
He was aware of what Gord was going through, and when the lights dimmed, he just started to tense up, and almost like he himself was about to take the stage. And it was quite an experience watching that final show with John,
I
because
was.
I think he felt a real connection with Gord even
Yeah,
before that, but certainly because of what they were both going through, different things, but also really difficult things to deal with. And he just felt such empathy for Gord on that night.
well, Vince said it's a level of Canadianness we'll never see again.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I
maybe.
agree with that too.
And the other night I was talking, actually on New Year's Eve, I was talking with Craig Northey from the Odds and Colin James. We were at his house for New Year's, and we had a really good thing going on in Vancouver at that time. And
Yeah,
we're all still friends, which is amazing. Like all the bands that were there, 5440,
yeah,
Grapes of Wrath, Colin James, the Odds, Barney Bento, all of us were all still pretty close friends. All our families are friends, and
yeah,
I think that's kind of unique that we've all kind of remained together. And we all feel very lucky that our bands arrived when they did. And I
yeah.
don't know if we would have that success in this day and age. It's a completely different landscape now, and I just think the timing was such that for us, late '80s, early '90s was just the most happening period for
Yeah,
most of those bands. And a lot of them are still going, like you were saying. Colin James is still playing, still out touring.
yeah,
5440, same thing. And Barney's not as active with Legendary Hearts, but he's still very visible out there. He plays a lot,
for
and
sure.
yeah, it's pretty neat to see.
And then Craig has got that Trans
Well,
Canada
Craig's got
Highwayman thing going, which I think
he's
is
got that, and he
incredible.
plays regularly in Stephen Page's trio.
Yeah,
Kevin
yeah,
Fox and him, and they're wonderful, and the Odds still play a lot too. So Craig's super busy, and he writes music for TV and film, and he's an amazing guy.
and Pat's back with Brian Adams full
Pat's
time.
back with Brian, and we're all so stoked for Pat. Because it feels like there's one of our guys that really hit the big time. Because
Yeah.
Ryan still does huge tours and big stadiums, and Pat's just the same old guy, and of course he was there in the early days, and
Yeah.
now he's back again, and we couldn't be happier for Pat. No one deserves it more than him.
I remember seeing before I moved out here to Prince Edward Island, I lived in Mississauga, Ontario. And I saw you guys, I saw Spirit twice in Mississauga, I believe.
Yeah.
But anyway, Pat, we saw the odds at the Horseshoe, and
Oh man.
they were celebrating the Good Weird Feeling album, and
Yeah.
they had like Mo Berg was there, and he sang a song with them, Tom Wilson from Junk House. And
Yeah.
then I'm looking out in the audience, and I'm seeing Kim Clark Chapness and Andrew Cash, and it was like a whole '90s
Oh
Canadian music
yeah.
reunion out there.
It really is. And a lot of the credit goes to those guys. Craig is such a social guy. I went to the Junos with him once a few years ago, and I could not believe how many people he knew.
Yeah,
He's really endeared himself to all the younger bands too. He somehow seems to know
yeah,
them all, whereas I don't. I just know our kind of era. But Craig he knows them all, and it was amazing hanging out with him that day.
it would be.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of seeing you guys at Massey Hall.
Oh wow.
I wasn't gonna miss that.
Yeah.
It was just the greatest thing to see you guys play
Yeah.
that hall, and I was crying at the end of the night. It was just I'd seen you guys so many times, and it's just like I'm really gonna miss this,
And
because
John
it's
was really great that night
yeah,
because we had done 2 nights earlier. We played in London, Ontario,
hmm
and I can't remember if we'd flown the same day. No, we probably wouldn't have done that. But anyhow, he was really struggling on that show
yeah,
because he was fairly well into his Alzheimer's, but somehow he knew that Massey Hall had all this kind of importance about it,
yeah,
and he wanted to do really well. And he was so focused. We got him his own dressing room before the show so he could warm up on his own. And man, he had such a great night there. We were so proud of him, and it was just the best. It's one of our goals for so many years, and to
yeah,
kind of our last Toronto performance was probably that. And I just think John was superb, and I've got such fond memories of that night because we were really worried that he wouldn't be able to stay on track and it could
yeah.
go sideways. But man, he was a champ that night.
He really
Yeah,
was. Well, you all were. Like, I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
it must be hard on you guys too, because you don't know
yeah. It
what
was
could go
it was
wrong.
hard. And the whole ending of the band was really difficult because I don't think we were really ready to, we'd been coasting for a while. I will say
Yeah,
that we had made a new record or written many new songs, and but we still enjoyed, even if it was just a few times a year, getting together for a couple of shows. We loved it, and it was really social, and it kept us all in touch. And then when Johnny got sick, we took it as far as we could, and then that was the end of the band. And then shortly after, he passed away a couple of years later, and it was just such a difficult time losing both Johnny and the band, like in short order
yeah,
there. I'm sure the hip guys struggle with that too. It's
sure.
not just, well, the main thing is, of course, losing your dear friend, and for me, my writing partner, and all those years, and but also, again, dealing with the actual end of the band is a whole other thing. And consequently, I'd say we've kind of drifted apart just because we don't live in Vancouver, and I'm the only one that's really here now.
Right.
You just don't see as much of each other, and it fades away a little bit. We try really hard to get together once a year, at least we all meet for a kind of a spirit gathering, and
Yeah,
and it's always super fun. But it's really kind of just one day a year now, unless someone comes into town, and then we will try and catch up. But everybody's sort of, Vince has been busy writing books. He's written a trilogy, and
yeah,
and he's kind of become the classic cliched reclusive author over on
yeah.
Vancouver Island. And then,
Um,
Tobin's really busy. Tobin works for a music software company, and he's quite busy. And Hugh's out in Ontario, so we haven't seen him for a long time. And Matthew, our guitar players in Winnipeg, and we just don't see them as much either.
right.
So it's just kind of how it goes. And I think I'm the only one that's probably still playing pretty regularly. Maybe Matthew still plays a
Yeah,
bit, but yeah, it's just everybody's. Well, some people have got younger kids, and they're focusing on
yeah,
that. Yeah, but it's a shame, but I think we'll always remain close friends, and as soon as you see each other, you pick right back up where you leave off.
Yeah.
But it is a bit sad that we kind of have drifted apart a little bit. So,
Yeah, you guys
but
were
it's
always one of those bands I could always feel the connection between you guys
yeah,
on stage.
yeah,
It wasn't a fake thing. You know that right away when you
no,
guys
for
used to play
sure.
together.
And every
Um,
band has their own kind of sense of humor, and Spirits was pretty amazing. There was a lot of funny people in that band,
yeah,
and yeah, I do miss that, all the the just the ridiculous traveling stuff together, and because you're off stage way more than you ever are on stage, so you
right.
have to get along. And the Paper Boys are very much like that too. I've played with them for so long now, and
Yeah,
we can read each other's minds, and they have their own way of working, and it's pretty fantastic. And they're a bit younger than me, which is nice for me. And they've got a little more energy. And I was just in Mexico with them for a week, and it was a blast. And yeah, so I'm lucky to have played with all these different people. I never thought that was going to be my career. I thought I was just going to be a one band
yeah,
guy, Spirit of the West. That was it, because it was, I was one of the founders, and that was all I needed to worry about, was just that. But over the years, all these other opportunities
sure.
have come along, and it's been enriching to delve into it and just work with other people. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the way my career has turned out.
The thing that always blew me away about Spirit the most was the way there were so many guys in the band that played multiple instruments and well. Like
Yeah,
Hugh was just a monster on anything you
yeah,
threw in his hands. And
yeah,
Tobin, bass, piano,
yeah,
accordion. You
yeah,
yourself, I don't know how many instruments I've seen you play
yeah,
on stage and well. So I find that
yeah.
incredible that you guys can do that.
I think Hugh is amazing. Hugh is anything with strings on it. He can play. Like I made a solo record a few years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, and he really helped me see it through. Just the two of
Right.
us basically did it with a little bit of help from Kendall. Played on a couple of songs, but essentially it was just Hugh and I. And he plays everything from pedal steel to Chapman stick to fretless bass to electric guitar. He's all over it, and he just mandolin, of course, and cittern, and anything with strings. He's superb at, and can't say enough about his prowess on all instruments. And same with Tobin. Tobin's a
Yeah.
very underrated. He's a great piano player, and yeah, he's and Vince is an excellent singer and percussionist. He plays
Yeah.
guitar as well, and yeah, I think every one of them. Matthew, same, plays bass,
Yeah.
banjo. Yeah, everybody plays more than one thing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, Vince, I actually got to tell Vince next time I speak with him that he's automatically a hero of me because I saw him on a rerun of Super Dave Osborne
Oh wow.
with Sue Medley.
Oh yeah. Geez. Yeah.
And I totally forgot about that. I'm like, oh, he's a hero of mine now because he was on Super Dave. So
Yeah. Vince has had before we met him, he had a great
yeah,
CV. He played with a lot of people we really admired, especially Paul Hyde, who's
yeah,
still one of our dearest friends. And of course, he played with Doug and the Slugs and Long John Baldry. My God, he played with some real iconic people from Western Canada and from Canada. And when we saw him play with Paul Hyde, we were like, that if we're going to get a drummer, that's the guy.
yeah,
And it was a difficult integration of drums into
right,
our band, because we'd had our own little way of doing things, kind of like Great Big Sea probably went through a similar thing.
yeah,
They were kind of an acoustic band, and then they decided to take it a step further, and same thing we did. And it took a special drummer to do it, and it wasn't easy for Vince and wasn't easy for us, but we persevered and realized that we had to change our mindset a bit with drums. And because we used to speed up and slow down, we
yeah.
whatever we wanted, because we didn't have to adhere to the beat so much. But we learned pretty quickly that if you're going to have a drummer, you can't expect you got to play to the drums. And it just took a bit of growing pains there, but it all worked out great.
I think I've asked Vince this, but I'll ask you: is there anything in the vault?
Oh boy.
Is there anything
There's
that could come out, or
I not that I don't think so. Not that we did as a band. There's
yeah,
definitely always a couple of things that are there. But I know John and I have some tapes of the two of us just working on songs. We
Yeah.
went to Main Island once, and for about 5 days, and we got snowed in there, and this is quite a few years ago, and I think we wrote about half a dozen songs, and
Yeah.
I've never listened to them since, but because it's going to be difficult to listen to them, but somewhere on my Zoom recorder, or I have those, but I don't know if it's the kind of thing that would ever see the light of day, but I don't think we'd never wrote a lot of songs. Like if we made an album with 11 songs on it, we might have
Yeah.
had 12, 13. We weren't prolific writers, but we labored over stuff, and often a song that was not used, we would just cannibalize it for the verses and choruses for something else.
Right.
I don't think there's too much that's left that we haven't tapped into, to be honest.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe like live stuff. Maybe you recorded
Oh,
like
there might
live.
be some of that, but we had a few friends that used to record shows and stuff for us, but man, we never wanted to listen back to them. Like, I don't know if most bands are like that or not, but yeah, I don't think we've got any great live recordings really, but possibly. I don't think I
Yeah.
have them. Maybe Hugh has them. He was a bit more of an archivist at the time, and it was one of his friends that recorded a lot
Yeah.
of our shows. So Hugh might have something, but I don't think I have anything worthwhile really.
Do you still keep in touch with Linda at all?
Not really, but I still love her to bits. And the last time I saw her was, I think, at the Vancouver Island Folk Music Festival.
Mhm.
That would be like 6 or 7 years ago. I did play on one track, Steve Dawson, that was recording one of her albums a few years ago, and I played on one song, but I never actually saw her. It was just through the internet, kind of we did it. But yeah, so I sadly I have not seen her for a while. But from everything I hear, she's doing great, and she's
Yeah.
really doing what she should have been doing all along. That kind of
Yeah.
music has always been in her heart of hearts, and we got her to play. I don't think she was ever really into traditional Irish music or anything like
Right.
that. Yeah. So I think when it ended for her with us, she really went back to what she wanted to
Yeah.
do, and I think she's living in Nashville, as far as I know, and enjoying a pretty good career there. So yeah, she
Uh,
she would be one person that's still playing a lot out of all of us. Yeah.
no, it's well, like I said, it's great to see that you're still very active. And I pay attention to almost everything I can that you're doing. So it's great to see you still
Yeah.
out there.
Well, that's
And
nice, Alan, that you keep track of. I'm the same way with bands that I like. I always find it really interesting if there's a side project or something else going on to try and track it down. And yeah, it's fun to do that, expand your collection a little more. And yeah, so
yeah,
again, with Linda, I'd love to see more of her, and I'm going to have to make the effort to have that happen. I'm never really in Nashville, just one of those
yeah,
places. I'd say it's more likelihood of her being in Vancouver than me being in Nashville, but yeah, definitely next time she comes, I'm going to have to make a point of having a beer with her.
yeah. Anyway, good luck on this tour. Well, you don't need
Thank
it.
you.
You guys are going to be great. I'm hoping to get out to one of those shows. I'm hoping to get out to Summerside to see you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Uh,
Um,
well, we have a few days of rehearsals when we get to Halifax to start things off, so everybody will want to come really prepared. But it's nice to know that once we start working on them as a band in the same room, the arrangements often change, and
yeah,
and some songs might get chucked out, and you have to be prepared for a bit of that to happen during the rehearsal period. So it's best just to learn them as best you can, and then when we get there, we'll really find out what's going to fly and what isn't.
sure. Yeah, I'm hoping to get out to see you when you get to Summerside.
Yeah,
Be nice if I can get to say hi to you face to
yeah,
face. That'd be great.
absolutely. Yeah,
Anyway,
I'll be there.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Nice talking
Um,
to you, and thanks for all the good work you're doing with Canadian music.
oh, it's a pleasure. It's a passion project. So
Yeah,
it's not,
it's
it's
really
not.
nice to hear.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Talk to you
All
soon.
right, thank you, Alan.
All right. Bye.